The social contract is the basic principle that individuals and governments have certain rights and responsibilities to one another. In a nutshell, people pay taxes, and the government gives us schools, roads, hospitals, and the fire department. That sounds like a fair deal, but when was the last time we updated the contract? When was the last time we asked fundamental questions about how our society is run and what changes we should make? Who goes to jail and why? What do we learn in school and why? What does the military do and why? We, or at least I, have a tendency to think about the topic or the scandal of the day and not the underlying issues that create them in the first place. Hopefully, through this conversation, we can attempt to answer some of those fundamental questions and redraw the social contract. Hey, Michelle, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Yourself?
Good, good. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Welcome back, everybody. Last week, we began a new series where we were discussing foundational questions about the social contract. So basically, we are taking a step back into how our society functions, what are the major questions that we deal with, and without having to focus on like the politics of the day or the scandal of the day, we're really able to do a deep dive into how our society works. And so last week we were talking about humanitarian intervention and the morality, around that. But now we're going to transition a little bit more, and we're going to talk about the cost of things. So for me, and Michelle, I want you to jump in and give your perspective. But when I think of the word cost, or when I imagine it in my mind, of course, I'm imagining a price tag attached to an item. The phone that I'm talking to you on, the headphones I'm talking to you on, they all have a price tag associated with it. And that's just one way of determining cost. And I think another way is looking at the environmental cost of things. So what did the earth have to give up in order for this product to be created? What did we have to mine? What was the supply chain? How many miles traveled on roads? How many liters of water? How much land that was disturbed, etc. So being able to calculate those costs, I think gives us a much deeper and more accurate picture when it comes to the cost of things. But Michelle, I know you wanted to talk about the more social aspect of things when it comes to our happiness, our mental health, and things like that. So go ahead.
Absolutely. I think the economic system that we've had for decades now, right? Again, we're under capitalist system since the Cold War. I would say this is what the economic mindset of the world has been, and it's all sort of like centers around the idea of growth and the idea of constantly growing, whether that's in profits and cutting down cost. And at that point, it's like, so this mindset has permeated in everything that we do. Everything has to be growing. But we never really talk about the social costs or the environmental costs at that end of a system that continues to, yes, produce a great result in terms of productivity, in terms of wages, and etc. However, we have finite resources on this planet.
Yes.
We do. And we can wax lyrical about how much money we've created, how many billionaires we have.
Right.
But at what cost? At what cost? And at what point do we have to deal with that conundrum of these two things? And I think this is where this conversation is really steeped in, because all the time we're just so inundated by the idea and every time you bring up the idea of a social cost or the environmental cost, again, you're either seen as like a lefty, or you're either seen as like some kind of just crazy person,
right?
Because we all are all centered around the idea of growth. And of course, it's I'm not blaming anyone, because at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel like they're successful in some aspect of their life. And so these two things I feel like are clashing. And I think especially for our generation and the generation younger than us, these are questions that we're constantly asking ourselves, because we can see the finite resources that exist for our generation.
Right.
and the conundrum
Exactly.
that we're going to have to deal with, especially with climate change and other issues that perhaps the generations before us may not have completely understood to the way we understand it today, especially with the invention of science and other understandings, political understandings as well. So yeah.
Mhm. No, absolutely. I think perhaps if this was a generation or two ago, just looking at how many more factories did you build? How many more, what was your quarterly growth? These were the only ways that you measure success and you measure growth that very narrow uh, modern capitalist definition.
Mm,
But I wanted to talk about a more modern example of that, and that's with electric cars.
mm.
So have you ever heard of Polestar?
Full Star, no.
The company? Well, no, Polestar.
Polestar.
Poles.
Yes, I've heard of
Yeah.
Polestar. Just don't know anything about it. I've heard of the name.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So Polestar, they're owned by Volvo. So
Oh.
and it's the electric car sub brand
So,
of Volvo. So it's like that. Yeah, exactly like that. And I don't know if you've been watching the news or just been paying attention, but there is a very significant push by all the auto manufacturers across the board to go electric by
Electric.
2035. You even have companies like General Motors, where they're taking a very aggressive approach, and they're taking their historical brands and their legacy brands that were known as gas guzzlers, so like the Hummer and their bigger cars. They're rebranding the Hummer as an electric car. You know what I mean? So they're saying, uh, like, this is the future, this is the world we live in, and so it's that's just what you're seeing. And so I was maybe a week or two ago, I did a test drive of the Polestar. I just wanted to check it out. It was new. I was curious about it, and it was a beautiful car. Drives really well. $70,000. It better drive well. And I was driving the car, and I was at a red light, and it was me and the gentleman from the dealership, and I was asking, I was like, oh, like it's an electric car. It's good for the environment. And he was like, yeah, but he's like, hey, you see that Corolla that's parked right next to us? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, that Corolla is right now, it's better for the environment than this Polestar. And and I've really been thinking, and like, this is the guy at the dealership, like he was, you know what I mean? Like he didn't even front about it. And it really got me thinking. And of course, what he was saying is 100% true. The cost of manufacturing the batteries, lithium ion battery technology, is way worse than burning gasoline. So, although I can say to you, I drive an electric car, I'm modern, I'm respecting the environment, and it's just because nothing comes out of my tailpipe, but it's just like, well, let's look into the creation of that battery. Let's look into how it actually works. You know what I mean? Like, how did you get there? What's the battery made out of? What's lithium? What's lithium made out of? You know what I mean? How do you get lithium? And as soon as you go down that road, you get into the conflict minerals, you get into supply chain issues, and it really paints a much larger picture, again, about environmental cost. So, I can say to you, oh, the Polestar 2 is a beautiful car, $70,000. And sure, it's $70,000, but I suspect a lot of fresh water and needed to be consumed. A lot of square footage needed to be consumed. A significant carbon footprint. Significant minerals needed to be mined. And if those statistics were attached to the price tag, I think we'd be looking at electric cars in a completely different world. And it has really got me thinking. You know what I mean? Like it's so much more complicated than going green or just buying an electric car. And I wonder, are we being bamboozled? Are we being hoodwinked by Tesla and by General Motors and what have you, when they're saying, yeah, come buy an electric car, you're saving the planet. And then and the reality of the situation isn't gas or electric, it's just travel less. It's just consume less. And so, that's something that I think about, and I'm curious to get your thoughts about it.
Yeah. Yeah, again, goes to the opening of what we were saying, right? We have this mindset that has been sort of like pushed into us to consume, which is at the base of our economic system is consumerism, right? Because consumerism drives demand drives production, right? And so
Mhm.
product, all of it kind of just recycles
Mhm.
into the whole thing. The more we're demanding cell phones, the more cell phones, iPhones come out, the more, you know, for iPhone lovers versus our Android lovers, the more Android phones are created, right? And so you have this inundated number of just product being produced time and time again. Now,
Right.
being from the Democratic Republic of Congo, of course, this topic is extremely important to me. The idea of conflict minerals is something that I've been
Absolutely.
talking about, that has affected me personally. I wouldn't be here in Canada had it not been for my father uncovering the sort of deep interconnectedness between the minerals that are found in the eastern part of the Congo, and sort of the mafia like systems and launderers and
Mhm.
supply chain systems that go all the way into the economic systems of Europe and America. And so
Okay.
I'm so deeply connected to this, and this has become, again, as now we're going into electric cars, right? We're having cell phones. I mean,
Mhm.
you have all these things that use all these minerals found mostly in the global south.
Yes.
Lithium,
Yes.
if you want to create lithium batteries, you're going to go to Bolivia, of which, you know, Elon Musk, when he was asked a few years ago when Bolivia was going through its political crisis, the coup that happened when they were trying to remove their president,
Yeah.
they he said, you know, he was saying something about the coup, and he said we can coup whoever we want.
Really.
Yes, he can.
I
He
got. I
said
got to look.
we
I
can
got to look.
coup whoever we want. It was very interesting when, because somebody had
Wow.
sent him he was saying, you know, giving people stimulus checks basically was wrong. It's what he was saying. Trying to give people stimulus checks was wrong. And so somebody said, oh, you know what's wrong? It's the United States trying to create a coup in Bolivia for lithium batteries for Tesla. And he said we can coup whoever we want.
Wow.
And I
I'm
remember,
reading it right now. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm surprised,
yeah,
but it's like Jesus Christ. Like that
yeah,
is
that is the
that's so like
mindset.
it, even when you like ask like the most hard, like even if you were to ask Dick Cheney, he wouldn't say something that hardcore. You know what I mean? Even the most right wing military, you know what I mean? I'm thinking of who is next, Henry Kissinger,
Yeah.
you know what I
John
mean? Like
Bolton, although John Bolton
John
did say some really crazy stuff about
John
Iran.
Bolton
So
would say that. John Bolton would definitely say that. But there's nothing that guy wouldn't say. But it is like even Henry Kissinger and Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney would say this is too much.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Now this
it's
is, yeah.
this
This is
this is
Elon
this
Musk. This is Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla, somebody that is lauded in
yes.
circles, somebody that even right wingers call, you know, he's too liberal sometimes again. But again, this is this is the mindset, I think, the
Oh my
system
god.
of the economic system we've created, that we
Mm.
so readily dismiss the social cost of
Yes.
this growth that we're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
And in Congo, right? So, and then the question will be, well, it is in demand. What do you want us to do? Not access to it?